Well, good morning. It's good to see everyone. We are talking about Module 18, Money Matters today, because money matters.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about, the catch up that we've been doing. Have you had an opportunity to get out and do some pop buys?
So I got my pop buys ready.
Good.
I was just figuring out who I was sending them to, and I put some personal notes, but I haven't gotten out. And speaking of catch up, I've been really behind on everything. I mean, this is the first week that I feel like I have a breather. I'm like rethinking about, all the little, I have all these football schedules that I want to send out. I have pop buys to drop by, and I've just been with 4 transactions, and being the new guy, I've been like way overwhelmed. But I finally feel like with two of my 4 out of the way this week, I feel like I can actually breathe.
Yeah.
And that's just my mind working. I probably should be able to find time to do all this stuff while I'm doing the 4 transactions, but being the new guy, I've just been worrying about stuff, and I've been behind. So.
That's totally normal. You're doing awesome. You actually are, I think, much better than you're much more on top of it than the average new guy.
Oh,
just so you know, or new gal. You're doing awesome. And we have totally kicked out of the ballpark the statistics that are typical for this class. You've way outdone it. So kudos there. And so that's why it's really important that we're talking about money, because it's coming. Right?
Wait, when is the last class on this one?
The last class is August 5th.
And so I'll have 4 closings during this class. I know you said there was a promise of something, right? Yeah. Because my next 2 are both on August 3rd. I have 2 on the same day.
Well, I think you're doing fantastic. So, I mean, and anybody would. That's great. For being brand new in the business, to have so much business is wonderful. And so let me ask you this. Have you guys noticed any changes in the market over the past couple of weeks?
I mean, I haven't really been out showing or anything like that, but I was feeling it when I got my cousins under contract, that it was that stuff. I looked like stuff was sitting on the market for 7-8 days. It wasn't gone in 3 days. I was noticing that just before, and I feel like I definitely feel like there's a little bit of a turn happening for sure. I mean, we did go over asking on Frontier, but it wasn't outrageous. I mean, it was a good amount over asking. It was $24,000 over asking. Yeah. But in that price range, I was seeing a lot of way overpriced purchases. So I'm feeling it anyways a little bit. It feels a little. I feel like if I went around with my northern Colorado people right now, I feel like we wouldn't have to put in 9 offers. I feel like we'd get there a little quicker.
Sure. Well, and so just statistically, we have 50% more inventory month over month. So that makes a difference. We had a buyer that was a referral that came up that we showed for one day. They made 1 offer, 1,000 over, and this is in the 650 price range, and they got it. Oh, so yeah, they were only up against 1 other. I mean, and when's the last time you had 1 day out with a buyer, 1 offer under contract?
Right.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's like. Never for me.
Right, never, but it'll happen. Yeah. We had a listing hit the market on Thursday, and this was a 415 was the list price. And we got 4 really strong offers, and it went under for 420 with a backup at 420 also. So, but that's only $5,000.
Right.
And only 4 offers. And we had maybe 12 showings max. So definitely we can see a difference in what's happening, and we'll just keep our eyes on it, because as inventory increases, and typically we do have a little slowdown at this time of year. That's not abnormal. What I really think is when we come to the spring, when our really hot season, next March, April, that's when we're really going to know if we're going into a seller's market or not, because typically things slow down this time of year anyhow. And then it'll pick up a little bit again before it slows down a little bit again. So we'll see how that goes. As far as your pop buys and your calls, I'm also catching up on some of those things, but I will say that the pop buys we did with the ice cream scoops were a great hit. That really went over well with our people, and we were able to actually see a lot of them, which is nice. A lot of times they're not home, but a lot of them were this time. Well, so one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, have you looked at your the businesses that you use in any industry, are there people that you go to that are not in your database right now? Like your hair person, or your car repair person, or any of the businesses you can think of, because many times we overlook people that we could be getting referrals from, just because we haven't thought of it. And so that's our ultimate meeting idea today, is to actually look for like 5 different businesses that you would be able to refer clients to, and that could refer you back, that are not in your database.
Yeah, I know you've mentioned this before. I think I'm missing the opportunity on that one for sure.
Well, I know
Yeah.
I was. The more that I do this, the more I found that we were missing out. So that's why I really wanted to bring it up, because it makes a huge difference. But I really like the money part of the Buffini training in every level. I have taken my own financial foundation and improved that using Buffini techniques. So they used to say that like 25% of all realtors had a tax bill to the IRS. Another one was only 25% of all realtors had health insurance. So then we've come a long way. And I did notice in our resources today that NAR has a link to financial health for realtors. And I think it's really good that the National Association of Realtors recognized this, because it is really hard. And if you had a chance to watch the Buffini video, you might have noticed where he took the $9,000 check, and if they needed every penny to pay their bills, it all went to personal, but they wrote themselves an IOU for the tax and the business reserve. So these are all really good recommendations. And so I just want to start with the budgeting. So I thought it was interesting that 74% of people have one that they talk to, and 79% say they don't stick to it. How do you guys think? How are you at budgeting?
That sounds pretty accurate. So budgeting personal is tough, because I come up with a budget with my wife and then she decides not to go with it. And I was like, well, you can't make the budget, and then if we want to pull money from here, we gotta like save money over here, and it's tough. So with the business budget, I have full control, and I really didn't have any money in my account really at all. And that's the thing you said about the IOU, or that he said about the IOU, that's brilliant, because I did have money set aside for taxes, and I hadn't had a closing since that first one with Victor, and I used some of the money to buy some signs, and I used some of the money to pay my office bill. And I did have in my mind, I didn't write it down, but I had in my mind, I'm gonna have to pay this back when I do these next closings. So I didn't write it down, but I was like, oh yay. So that's an acceptable thing to do if it's just a little bit, not all the time, Yeah. So that's great. So I'm actually bad at budgeting. We do have a budget, and I still working on my real estate budget, but I almost never stick to it, and that's a flaw of mine for sure.
Well, I think 79% of the people also have that issue, including myself. I love the part where he says, sit down each month and look at what you spent and where your money's going. And I think that's really one of the things that we have to do, especially with the home. I know that's where I waste money.
Yeah.
Where do you guys waste money?
Yeah, just having fun, I think. I mean, you have to have like a fun budget, but I just like to be social and go out and things like that. It's not that I need to eat out or go to breweries, but that's where my social time usually is spent. I think I spend a lot of money out of the house. And in the house, I have all these ideas, but I haven't really put the money back into the house yet. I agree with you on that one. I have so many things on my list of things to do for this house, but I think mine is going out and having fun. My fun money is overspent all the time.
That I would say is probably my issue too. And so what we've done with this Money Matters in the advanced, we actually break it down into a couple more categories, including personal reserve and a travel account. We also So I put 5% in my travel account. And that way I've got some money in there for fun. But I think it's right that most of our waste is in personal spending. If every now and then you'll get caught up in what you think is a good idea for business and spend some money on something, a lead generation program or something, then it doesn't work. That happens every now and then. But I think we're much more careful about our business expenses, but yet our personal expenses, I think, tend to get a little out of track. That's where we go off to. So I think his formulas really work. And I can tell you that I never really had a good financial foundation until I started doing it this way. But I always had a tax bill. That's something that is, it plagues a lot of realtors. If you don't pay enough in your quarterly taxes, and at the end of the year, you made a ton of money and you have a $20,000 tax bill, that's a hard nut to swallow. It really is. So separating them, I think, is really important. Have you had an opportunity to get into your Buffini program and put in some of your numbers, like average prices, or just keeping up with your transactions and being able to forecast income that way?
When we first signed up, when you first signed me up for this, I did. But now that I have a little more under my belt, I want to go back and replay with it. I haven't touched it in a while. But when it was brand new and I was like, I only had the one transaction, there wasn't really much for me to put in. Oh yes, I want to make this kind of money, but I didn't really know what I was looking at. You need 4.94 transactions. Like, what does that mean? Does that mean I need 5? I mean, you know what I mean? I was a little confusing. I feel like I should go back and play with it now. But yeah.
I think that's a great idea. And when you're doing that, keep in mind that it'll help you determine your averages, to have it in there. Yeah. It will help you to see your average as far as commissions and days on market and things like that. But also it helps you to really see where your money's coming from and help you forecast. So, and another good thing it does, when you put your transactions in there, it remembers like closing dates and will help you with those home anniversaries and things like that come up later. So. Yeah. And you know, the money matters. And I would say that there's probably, it's just a challenge to get in there and update the transactions and make sure that everything is reflecting what is your reality, and makes a big difference though when you do that.
Do you use like he was talking about, like a specific credit card for all of your real estate stuff?
We have an Apple card that we use for almost always for that. But the problem with Apple is you can only download the transactions once a month. So it's kind of tough. I do think I'm going to go ahead and get the Mint program, even though I've been a Quicken user since the early 90s. Yeah. And when I was audited, my Quicken printouts, they supported the audit. I didn't have to provide receipts or anything like that. My Quicken printouts gave them all the information that they needed. So I got through that audit without too much pain. Of course, they're looking for money, so they have to give you some pain. Mm-hmm. But it turned out okay. So I was really happy that I kept that. But Quicken it's a tracker of your expenses. It's not a budget, right? So Mint is a budget, and Quicken will never tell you if you spent too much money. So I need to have that in my business.
So you use whoa. Whose dog is that?
Hey, Joanne.
So you'll use Quicken and Mint. Is that you use them both side by side? Okay.
Yeah, because Quicken is more like your bank register. Yeah. You have everything that you spent in there, and I can pull the charts. I can pull P&Ls, and I can see exactly what I spent after I download all the Apple stuff and go through that. I have to do that once a month. It's kind of a pain. But it doesn't tell me as I go. I can't look and see if I'm on budget or not. It's not a budget. So
yeah, it's interesting. He did say check it once a month. When I used to be a restaurant manager, you don't go months and months without looking at your budget. You look at it every single month and see, okay, I overspent on kitchen supplies this month. What do I, or before you even spend the money, you say, okay, I know this is my budget. Where can I pull from elsewhere in the budget to make sure I don't go over budget. It's really
Yeah.
simple, but in our personal life, it's just, for some reason, it's work. I don't know. Even though, it's work that I'm not getting paid for, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
So
no, it's true though.
it makes sense, yeah.
And we should know our numbers. I can remember one time when I was in the management side, and I had an office of about 130 agents, and my regional person, when I was fairly new to that company, that position, he's like, what's your current profit number? And I had to go to my computer to find that out. And he said to me, I don't ever want you to not be able to answer that question when I ask you. You need to know every day, all the time.
Yeah.
And so that job was a little bit of a tough one. I'm glad I don't have that anymore. But it brought the C out in me,
Yeah.
the numbers person, because I'm not a numbers person. But we kind of have to be. We have to adjust and be a little more numbers oriented in our business.
I think my wake up call was, so I use QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super easy to use and it integrates with my account. So so all I have to do is assign it to an account. But so when I did my end of the year P&L statement, realized how much money I spent, like on subscriptions and marketing. And I know that's supposed to be a big, but what are the percentages? I know that it's out there somewhere that
10%.
10%
on your marketing and prospecting, 10% of your gross.
Okay. And I know I was over that.
Me too.
And so this year I'm really just kind of trying to hone in a little bit better because I made good money, but I spent a lot. So technically I didn't.
And that's easy to do. We can make 800,000 and spend 799 of it without looking. But one of the things that's important is the 10% to not spend more, but also to anticipate that we're going to have to spend that money. We have to invest in our business. So it is a good thing to track. If you're making $100,000, then you're going to be spending just over $800 a month on your marketing and prospecting. It is. It's true. So think about that. And on your next check, try it. Try to see if you can divide it up and use the commission calculator. If you're not already doing that, I am so excited because part of the Buffini coaching, they made us do this and budget and really just like Buffini said in the video that if you're in his coaching program, you have to have a budget. And we did. We had to go over our budget with our coach. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of waste, but it also really helped. And so my quarterly taxes this year, I've actually had it in the account and I feel much more sane because I'm not all stressed out about where that money is going to come from or need to get that another deal because I spent it all, or because I'm notorious for that. I'm a good spender.
I think we all
really good discipline.
Well, and that's something I learned from the very, very, very first day that I started real estate. I automatically set up a separate account. So for every transaction that I closed on, I took 20-25% and moved it into that account because I had heard of an agent that didn't, and they were like 3 years behind in paying taxes. And I was like, nope, not going to do it.
No.
Maybe this is a conversation for a different day, but you actually, what do you mean by quarterly taxes? I haven't really made any money, so I don't really know about this.
So you will next year. This is your first year, so they're not going to get mad at you, but they're going to look, your accountant should figure it out. You're going to have a quarterly amount that you need to pay based on your taxes for this year. And you probably want to up it because you're going to do a little bit more next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. If you don't pay your quarterly taxes, they give you fines and
so
additional
you
fees.
pay even though you don't, you pay based on what you've already made. So by the end of the year, you're not paying for the whole year.
Exactly.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Yeah, but they don't really, if you make none January, February, March, they really don't know that. They still expect a quarterly payment in April.
Okay.
There are some forms that your accountant can do to try to show them how you didn't owe any quarterly taxes yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know what your yearly is going to be, and you're going to hit 100,000, so you may as well just do it, right?
Right.
And find a way to pay those taxes in. But what my goal is this year is when I go to do my taxes that I don't owe any, that I get some back. Just this much. I don't want to pay them too much. They're not my savings account, but I don't
Yeah.
want to owe any money.
You don't want to write a
my
big
goal.
fat check.
Every year I'm paying 16, 17,000. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we were going to take a vacation with that. Now it's all gone.
I know, you see it
Yeah,
sitting
right.
in your savings account and you're like, oh, if only.
Right? It's not mine.
It's not.
Not mine. But when it's sitting there in your savings account, it looks like yours.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with quarterly taxes, Ray. You're in your first year, so they wouldn't expect you to do it, but they will next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you
Lucky
just
self-employed.
and you have your accountant that just helps you with all that. Is that what you're saying?
I
your guy?
do. You know
Okay.
what though? I just kind of have an idea now
Yeah.
that I put my 20% in my tax account. Then I know I just send it in,
Yeah.
and so at the end of the year I better have paid enough.
And oh yeah. And but have you ever, and you said you've never gotten to a point at the end of the year where you've actually paid too much, where they settle
Not
everything?
yet. I have owed every single year $15,000 to $20,000. This will be my first year I don't,
At
and it's
the
because of the Buffini program.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Heidi, before you weren't doing your quarterlies or not paying the full amount?
I
Of your
didn't pay
quarter-
enough.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I paid about half
okay.
because I was really optimistic. I wasn't going to owe that much. Not.
Yeah,
So I have more questions about this, but we'll talk about it another time. But I'm just curious
Sure.
about it. So we don't need to waste time on this right now. But
But I use, you know what, I just go to H&R Block. So all year long, I do my Quicken or QuickBooks also, very good. And I pay my quarterlies, and then I take it all to H&R Block, and my tax guy there, he does it, and I'm done. So I don't see a CPA every month. I just do it myself on Quicken, and I pay my quarterlies, and he gives me a good idea based on what I did this year. Here's probably what your quarterlies
Yeah.
are going to be if you're the same. So. It works. And I'm thankful to have it because I won't have a tax bill soon. Still making up all those years. Terrible, terrible thing. So really though, the money part takes a lot of discipline, and it's something that is, I think, one of the greatest rewards for the discipline that it takes. And so today's module is kind of, small. It's a big subject, but we don't have a lot to talk about. So I think the most important thing is to get in a really good habit with your money if you're not already, and to revisit some of these, the recommendations that he's gotten. I'm happy to share with you some of the things we've learned in the advanced about having debt payoff accounts, travel accounts, or your fun account, because we're not going to quit having fun. May as well budget for it, right?
right.
Yeah, and if you like to have a lot of fun, you better budget more. All right. So next module, the module 19, is the lead cultivation program. And so we'll do this one on Thursday, and it's really going to help you, like when you go into your Buffini and you're tracking your transactions and you have to put hot, warm, lukewarm, helping you analyze kind of where those people are and how to create a sense of urgency and get that momentum going. I think, it's great to have a lead, but some leads take a while to convert to real clients. And so that's what we're going to talk about next week. And that is one of the most important skills we learn when we're in our first year, is converting those leads to clients. And I would say it's one we learn, but I say it's the most important skill we can have throughout our career. because you hear people that get leads, but they don't get business. That's because they're not converting. Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And our homework this week. So you got Popeyes, and we have to catch up. I'm going to be doing a lot of catch up. I have my coaching call tomorrow, and I get to tell him I didn't get everything done, but I did get through COVID. So
Yes.
I think you have a legitimate excuse, Heidi.
I think so. But you know what? I could have been focused on more work, but I felt pretty good when I was in quarantine. So I quarantined myself in my craft room.
Ah, nice.
Yep. And I made a bunch of cards. That's what I do in my craft room. For church, I make homemade cards. And so I got a bunch done. So that's kind of cool.
Awesome.
Yep. Well, so what big things do you have coming up in the next few days? So you've got your closing, Ray,
Got a
tomorrow.
closing tomorrow.
You ready?
We're ready. Let's do
Awesome.
it. I was ready last week.
Right, you were ready last week. Anything else big coming up on your horizon?
Me, I mean, I just have a couple hurdles. Just we need an appraisal to come back in.
Okay.
The one for my Franktown, not a big deal. There's a $50,000 appraisal gap. The one for my cousins, I need this appraisal to come back good. And I think we should hear something today about it.
Okay.
If not, I'll be calling you and seeing what we can do.
Let me know either way, okay?
Yeah. Well, either way, yeah.
I hopefully it'll be fine.
I'm not an appraiser, but the numbers I looked at, I think it'll be right where it needs to be. But
Good.
I'm
Well, I
also
think
a
you're
rookie.
probably
So,
spot on.
yeah.
How about you, Joanne?
Well, I have a buyer's appointment tomorrow. And then just not, I've got to just kind of get back into the routine. I have a closing at the end of the month, actually August 2nd. And we've been it was a new build. So I think my big thing this week is navigating between the client and the builder. It's getting pretty contentious.
Ooh.
And I haven't done a from the ground up, contract yet. So so that's my big thing.
Well, that's really good. I'm glad that you mentioned that because, it feels like when you sell a new home that the builders got it, they have their own contracts, they have their communication system, and we feel kind of on the sidelines a little bit, but we're not. And many, many times there are issues between buyer and builder. And that's really where our value comes in to help be their advocate. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I'm going to reach out to my managing broker. I think I need a little coaching on this because the builders just they are taking some shortcuts, and the client she did a lot of upgrades. She nitpicks every little thing. So the builder's kind of done with her.
Yeah.
And so I've got to try to bridge the two.
That's our job.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks we have an easy job. It's not about finding the house. Anybody can go find their own house.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the job. The job is keeping it together and getting to the closing table.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's good to see you, and I will look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And
All right.
my gosh, we have 3 more. That's it.
I know. Wow.
And then I can't wait to do our numbers. Well, have a great week and try to stay cool. It's so hot.
It's so hot.
I've been overheating. As soon as I walk outside, I'm just like, I need water or go back inside. I can't
I
handle it.
know. I need to go back to the beach. At least you can jump in the ocean.
And where were you, Joanne?
We were in Holden Beach, North Carolina.
Oh, beautiful.
It was nice.
Nice.
Yeah. We got hit
Well-
with Tropical Storm Elsa. So I sat through my first tropical storm.
Oh my.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was-
Well, that was an experience, I'm sure.
yeah. Well, coming from Colorado, where we are lucky if we get 5 minutes of rain.
Yeah.
You got buckets.
It was blowing sideways. It was not just, it was rain just in the house. We were in a big 3-story house and I was on the 3rd story trying to work and I could just feel the wind swaying the house. It's like, can't imagine what a hurricane would be like.
Mhm. Yeah.
I grew up in Houston. I went to high school there and went through a few.
Yes, you
And-
know.
Oh, scary. Yeah. And the tornadoes and everything else they bring.
Yeah.
Is, it's scary. But
Yeah.
but good that you're home safe and you had
Yeah.
a fun vacation though.
It was great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Good to hear.
All
Well,
right.
have a great couple days. We'll see you on
All
Thursday.
right.
Okay.
All
Bye,
right.
guys.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.